Hello and welcome to the kickoff session for our Digital Learning Exchange hosted by the University of Rhode Island. My name is Julie Coiro. I'm a literacy professor in the Feinstein College of Education at URI, and Kara Clayton, our producer, is a project manager at Detroit PBS in Michigan and a long time, recently retired, high school media literacy teacher. So I wanted to just give you a tiny bit of background to let you know where this virtual conversation idea came from. Kara and I and our leadership team of about 25 other folks, some of whom are here today, have been talking for a while about creating a free professional learning space that encourages teachers, librarians, administrators, and other thought leaders to feel okay about just wanting to slow down and think on a deeper level, to ask questions rather than maybe pretend we know all the answers when things are changing so quickly, to wonder and make some new friends, and hopefully to grow together as we consider different possibilities for how to navigate so many changes taking place in our world. We don't claim to know all the answers. And importantly, what will work for some of us may be very different than what works for others. And to us, that's another cool thing, is just taking time to listen to someone else's perspective and maybe even thinking about the future a little differently and with more intention. So before I say more about our vision for the Digital Learning Exchange, I'm hoping you can take a moment in the chat to say hello and let us know your role and where you're coming from. And so we'll pause for a few seconds and then I will start to share my screen. Take a look at all of the different people. I'm going to share my screen for one more moment, just to give you a sense of who's here, or at least who registered. Some people may not have made it in yet. You can see we have people who are from elementary and secondary education, library media, higher education, some administrators, digital or media professionals, youth advocates, and others across the community eager to join these conversations in support of education. And honestly, I think that's pretty awesome to have so many different kinds of people here in the same space thinking about really important things together. So, we're going to take a real quick, big picture look at what we hope to accomplish long term with the Digital Learning Exchange. The core values of our annual Summer Institute in Digital Literacy, which is typically a 6-day experience in June and July, is built on 4 pillars. The notion that everyone learns from everyone, and we all have important experiences to share. A commitment to inquiry and creative production through the use of digital tools. An intentional focus on using digital literacy as a tool to examine social justice and promote democracy, and authentic opportunities to further develop leadership and advocacy skills so we can confidently make decisions in our classrooms and in our communities. The Digital Learning Exchange builds on those values, but the conversations and what we're going to think about as this arc of learning now extends across an entire year. It's free, and maybe that's more inclusive for some, and it actively seeks your voices and input in our problem-solving community across the year. So you'll see in this figure we have 5 goals. First, rather than feeling like we need to rush to make decisions in isolation and maybe without purpose, we believe that we can all benefit from sustained spaces, both virtual and in person, to connect or reconnect, reflect on emerging challenges, and collectively make sense of how to productively live, teach, and learn in today's world. Second, we need to stay true to ourselves as humans while remembering that balance, care, and healthy decisions about our lives online and offline are important parts of our well-being. Third, We believe young people and really all of us thrive when we help each other develop confidence, criticality, agency, and civic awareness to be able to participate thoughtfully and responsibly in our communities. Fourth, we aim to learn together through curiosity, dialogue, collaboration, and shared inquiry. And fifth, we believe it's crucial that we begin to find a way to design more connected, empowering, and sustainable approaches to teaching and learning in the future. Of course, here on what's probably a hot day in July for many of you, that sounds like a lot. And actually, it is. But what's in the middle of the figure reminds us that although we all have different identities, different roles, geographies, maybe different beliefs about how things can and should be, we firmly believe that we are always stronger together, working to build a more connected, created, and just digital future. We are very glad you've decided to join us to work toward this shared vision across the next year. So, without further ado, we're going to get started. We've got about one more minute just to kind of give you an overview of things. Kristin Ziemke is going to share some of her own thoughts and engage you in a reflection activity. We've got about 20 minutes of a breakout conversation with the questions that you'll choose in just a moment. There will be some whole group closure just before the top of the next hour. We'll talk very, very briefly about what's next and ask you to complete an exit survey to give us some feedback. And for those of you who are interested and available, you can stick around from 3 o'clock to 3:30 Eastern Time for a virtual fireside chat. So today's theme is reconnecting and reflecting. Our question is, how can we support each other as we grow and learn in community? And we've got both some inspirational reflections and a virtual community circle. And so I'd like for you to help us to respond to this very quick Google form that Kara can also, and I think I can dump it in the chat as well. If you can type in your name as it's listed on your Zoom label, and then which question you would most like to explore. I'm going to give you a moment to select that and submit. I have the pleasure of introducing Kristin Ziemke, who's going to kick us off with a few stories, an activity about the importance of curiosity and joy in the learning process. So Kristin is a lifelong teacher who has been part of our DigiURI community for more than 10 years. She has worked with and in service to young people for more than 20 years. And to me, she embodies passion and curiosity in everything she does. Kristin is recognized nationally and internationally for her expertise in literacy, inquiry, and technology. And she partners with educators and organizations around the world to design learning experiences that redefine school. And on a personal note, every time I talk with Kristin or listen to her present, she causes me to think deeply about the things that matter most. So I will stop sharing, turn it over to her now so she can get us started.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. It is so wonderful to be here with all of you today. Thank you for taking a little time out to continue your learning journey and to maybe share a little bit with others here in the community. We've got so many great thinkers, and we are super excited to have this time together today. So let me quickly share my screen with all of you. There we go. All right. Awesome. Great. And I'll just shrink this a little bit. Hopefully, you can all see. But Julie, thank you for that lovely introduction. That was so kind. And I hope that, we can stay curious and keep learning together. I've been doing the work of curiosity and inquiry for quite a long time. And I think if I had to sum up what my books are about, they're about learning and continuing to place yourself on that continuum of learning and taking a step forward to try another new thing or to get a new idea or to push yourself a little bit more. And so for me, learning starts with curiosity and being insatiably curious, as my mentor Stephanie Harvey always talks about. But I'm the kind of person that wants to always know more as well as seek more. And so I wanted to start by sharing a couple of my recent curiosities with all of you. First off here, let's see. All right, let me just move my thing because my slides are not advancing. Let me just try one more thing here. All right, there we go. I have gone down the rabbit hole on The Wizard of Oz, and I realized, oh, you can't see it because my little blur is on, but I realized I had never actually read the book, The Wizard of Oz. I had seen the movie many times, and so thinking about the book and then starting to do some research and hearing all the stories about The Wizard of Oz has led me down this tremendous rabbit hole of not only the movie, but the actual book. And what sparked this was I was doing a little walking tour around Chicago, and I learned that L. Frank Baum, the author, and William W. Denslow, the illustrator, did their final production work for The Wizard of Oz in the Fine Arts Building located just a couple of blocks from my house here in Chicago. And so this kind of got the ball rolling. And then I went on to learn that like William Denslow, the illustrator, had so much pressure on him because he was the first person to like envision what the Tin Man looked like and what the wizard looked like and what the Wicked Witch of the West looked like. And so the origin of all of our knowledge that comes from either the movie or the book lies in these first iterations that Frank Baum talked about with William Denslow and William Denslow created as a picture or movie in his mind that have now been around 126 years because the book first came out in 1900. So if you have any questions about the Wizard of Oz movie or book, please pop them in the chat. I am very happy to fulfill your curiosity on that and share a couple of the things that I've been learning about. Books are a big theme in my life. And I recently traveled to Finland and discovered Tove Jansson, the incredible artist and author and illustrator. If you haven't read it, the summer book is absolutely exceptional. Quick read. I'm obsessed. And so I've also gone on an inquiry to read all of the things Tove Jansson has produced. And you may well know her for her series on the Moomin characters. And the Moomins are these little characters that have swept the world for their love and their personality and their adventures. And so books for young children, it was one of the best-selling children's literature books when it first came out and continues to be a standard around the globe. So books and reading often inspire the things that I'm curious about or passionate about as a next step. Let me just scoot this little toolbar. There we go. And the other thing that I'm launching a curiosity into this July is that I'm not a particularly religious person, but the Pope just came out with his Magnifica Humanitas, which is on the safeguarding of the human person in a time of artificial intelligence. And so it is my goal this month to read through this entire document that the Pope has researched and created and produced about AI and the pitfalls that we need to be aware of. Interestingly enough, the Vatican has been researching and safeguarding the most vulnerable, as they like to say, in regards to AI for more than a decade. So they're actually one of the leading research bodies on artificial intelligence and possible or potential outcomes. So those are just a couple of the things that I've been researching and thinking a little bit more about in the last couple of days. But I'm very curious to learn more about what you're all thinking and wondering about. We started with that Google form with what we would call structured curiosity, right? Like sometimes it's very intimidating to say, "What do you want to know about the world?" or anything in it. And so we give just a few options or topics, and that sort of plants the seed. And then we open it up to more curiosity and more curiosity and more curiosity. But I think like one of the most beautiful things about curiosity is that it's joyful, right? I think this little boy right here is the face of curiosity, right? And there's a couple of big indicators that signal it, right? First and foremost, his circle mouth, right? Like, oh, like we've all had that moment where we've learned something or discovered and gone like, oh my goodness, right? The wide eyes, right? Taking in information as quickly as possible, eyebrows up. And in actuality, the body gives these physical responses to emotion or to new learning, right? This is an evolutionary response because way back when humans were being hunted or saw a fire coming at them, what your body physically did was open the eyes to take in more information, suck in air to be prepared for fight or flight, right? Start cueing all of the physical nervous system to be able to respond. And so we still activate these same features when we become curious about something. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about how these moments of curiosity cue questions and potentially further research. Take a look at this. I hope you can hear it.
How is that true?
The water inside the banana is the conductor.
The banana is the conductor?
Yeah, the water inside it is a conductor.
So if I touch you, then
You can still use it.
it's a circuit. A circuit is that means go around. So if I
Look at all the learning and engagement and questioning that comes from a quick moment with a banana piano, right? Reciprocal teaching, interaction, joy, all of those elements that really spark those moments for further research, right? That young boy didn't go into his STEM class that day saying, "Today I want to learn about a banana piano." But what happened was his older peers hooked him into those curiosity moments. And I think, regardless of our profession, if we can spike a moment of curiosity, or if we can help people see why they might want to learn more, we get way better outcomes than we could ever anticipate. There are lots of studies, and the work on this is almost 2 decades in duration at this moment in time. But I love this language of like, we are wired to wonder. We are wired to desire to learn more, right? We're using multiple thinking strategies. We're building comprehension and retention, and we're seeking to do even a little bit more than maybe we thought we could. And whether you're working with young people or you're working with adults, it's not about entertainment necessarily that gets people excited about learning, but it's about presenting them with matters of significance. And what I've learned about young people is that every time you honor their questions, you give them topics that are deep and meaningful, they consistently lean in to those topics that matter and pursue more information, right? And it's not necessarily about finding the answers, but it's more about finding more information. And so I want to kick it back to all of you for a second and give you a couple of moments for reflection. Um, And I want you to think of one person that taught you something meaningful. It could be a classroom lesson, but it doesn't have to be, right? It could be a life lesson or something that you continue to think about. All right. When you think about that one person that taught you something meaningful, what did they teach you? All right. How did that influence you? All right. So we're thinking about who taught you something meaningful? What did they teach you? And how did that influence you? So, as you take a second to reflect and think about this, Kara is going to drop a link into the chat to a Padlet, and I am going to just click over so you can see that Padlet wall. Hopefully, you can see this right now on my screen. But if you haven't used Padlet before,
Julie, could you do that for me, please?
you can
Yes.
click the plus at the bottom, right? Hopefully you can see my screen. Kara, let me know if you can't. I'm typing my name right there. And I'm just going to do a little writing. Someone who taught me something meaningful, meaningful was Stephanie Harvey. She taught me that curiosity is the or to future learning and collaboration. All right. So, my mentor, Stephanie Harvey, wrote a lot of books on comprehension and inquiry. And one thing that she taught me is that curiosity is the core to future learning. I'm going to keep going here. As a result, I still think about curiosity and bring that to my students and my work daily. All right. So I'm going to invite you to take a little time. We will take 3 minutes or so. The directions are up here on the Padlet. Who taught you something meaningful? What did they teach you? And how did that influence you? As you're working, one of the reasons that I really love Padlet is at the top on my screen here, you can see the number of people who are collaborating on the document right now. So I can see some little avatars for people that might be signed in or some little animals for people that are just playing around with Padlet today. Awesome. So I see Nicole popping up. I see PR popping up. Jacob. Maybe we'll take just one more minute. So many good ones. Mentors, setting boundaries. I'm still working on that, Angie, every day. Mm. Kids, right? I learned so much from kids too, Jacob. Not my personal ones, but those that I get to work with. Yeah, Philip, everyone does have a story to tell. Hmm. Wow. This is so incredible to see the people that have influenced you and that taught you something. Um, and I think as I look through these, right, positive self-talk, understanding that fun and joy have to be a core tenet, right? Setting boundaries, finding the beauty in life, right? Reading daily. Everyone has a story to tell, right? Looking at how curiosity behind the camera from Craig right there. I love that one. How kindness is so important, right? To do the things that bring me joy. These are such great examples. Thank you, everybody, so much for sharing your thoughts on this. And I think when we look at this, right, it's not necessarily the academic outcomes that we're seeing here as the big, important, meaningful learning moments. It's really those things that built connection, right? Or brought us together or gave us the opportunity to see that our story matters. We are worthy and that the learning that happens can take place in the classroom or elsewhere. And so I think that, when I think about not just children, right? But when we work with any people, we start with their stories and their identities and who they are as a person. This from Don Graves, who has been a great mentor to me as well. Incidentally, I just wanted to share this slide and we'll pop a link in just a bit later. But so many of the things that you guys mentioned pop up in this graph. This is from the World Economic Forum, Education 4.0. And what they did was they used thought leaders and futurists and Fortune 500 CEOs and really did a huge global study on the abilities and skills and attitudes and values and knowledge and traits that were needed for the world moving forward, and especially in a world of AI. And if you look over here in column 3, right, these are the traits and skills that are needed moving forward, right? That critical thinking, problem solving, right down here in attitudes and values, curiosity, adaptability, growth mindset, right? So many of the things that I saw people name and what they learned and what they took away from those who were influencing them. And when we look at, curiosity and the role that it plays, it's absolutely a tenet for the future, right? It's the deepest source of why we learn. It's not just about asking questions, but it really supports creativity, problem solving, and adaptability, which we know we need as that element, even in a world with AI. And I would even argue more so in a world of AI. But I think it's not just curiosity as a trait. Curiosity is relational, and it only happens when we feel safe to ask, right? When we're in community of people who want to share ideas and try new things and test and iterate, and we recognize that there's not just one answer, but that we're truly learning for the sake of learning. And so in our time together, we're going to spend time today and time in the next couple of months asking questions and researching and constructing new ideas and sharing with each other, which builds that beautiful cycle of learning. And the best part, in my opinion, of learning is when we get to share it as a community of learners, because that talk, that idea generation, that synthesis, those aha moments are the catalyst for joy. And so I am so excited to be joyful with you and to be curious and to dive a little bit deeper in our time together today and in the next couple of months. And with that, Julie, I'm going to kick it back to you.
Thank you very much, Kristin. And I'm going to do a quick check-in with Kara. Um, so what's going to happen in the next minute or two, Kara is finalizing setting up the breakout rooms.
We were talking about joy and whether our students use the word. And one high school teacher was saying some of his younger students use it, but by the time they get to be seniors, it's considered too cheesy. And then I was talking about how my teacher educators, especially in elementary teachers, really think a lot about joy. It's like why they got into teaching, but they don't necessarily think about digital tools as joyful because I think they're often used for very rote instruction, like sticking a kid on a computer alone, rather than some of the more expansive ways that digital tools can be used.
Thanks, Elena. Kristin, hello, hello. Kristin was going to kind of navigate this closure piece here, so go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know about all of you, but in my group, we ran out of time and like we're still talking and the room closes and it's like, no, because that's what happens. You're just starting to build connection. It takes that 7, 8, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then it's kind of like speed dating, right? That's what we talked about. It was like speed dating on a couple ideas that we want to talk more about. And we hope that that's the piece that inspires you to keep coming back, where maybe in a follow-up, we'll have deeper conversations or longer times in breakout rooms or new topics where we can talk about our curiosities and wonderings and then gain ideas from the room. Because as with everything, the room is truly the one that has the best ideas. And it's a little bit of listening and it's a lot of reflection and it's a little bit of sharing that get us to keep learning, right? And we're never going to know everything. But I think if we can take that learner stance of let's learn one more thing and think about the next thing, that's where the social aspect of learning and connection and curiosity come in. And it's that trifecta that really brings us to that place of joy. So despite your speed dating conversations, I hope you have a little joy from the time that you spent with others. If you would like to stick around, we are just going to have like a little more conversation and fireside chat, if you will, once this time concludes here in just a few more seconds. But before we talk a little bit more about curiosity and learning, I'm going to kick it over to Julie with just a few things that she wants to share and wants you to know about the learning exchange.
Yes. So, Kristin, actually, do you mind if I share my screen and that
Yeah,
way
perfect.
I can click around?
Absolutely.
All right. So, a couple of very quick things for you. So, we are very excited to have a new Google site. We will share the link with you. There is a chat, there is a QR code here. But it looks like this. Right now, there's a home page that explains our goals. There is a schedule, and if you click on the left-hand menu, you can see there's something already for July 14th. And after the session, you'll be able to access the recording of the bigger panels or talks. You'll be able to access the links to the speaker's slides and any related resources. We also added a few inspirational kinds of resources to talk about the power of community and relationships, And so as we go through the year, this is available for you to revisit things, to continue conversations, to share with other people who weren't able to stay or come, I'm sorry. And then there is a staying connected page with a lot of other things. Some of those things include a Padlet where we very much invite you, encourage you to find your way there. And you can see we have several people already who have posted. There's a little prompt for you. And we're envisioning over the year that this will be a place for you all to kind of stay in touch with each other. We have many, many individuals over the years from past events that have been connected and gone on to do some amazing things together. So let me, there's one other quick, if you really love to learn and you are interested, Kara and I actually teach a seminar in digital literacy class in the fall. I'm not going to say anything else because this is not a marketing pitch and don't want to go there. But that is something that's available. What I would love for everyone to help us with, and I need somebody else to put the link. Hold on.
I did it already.
Thank you.
Yep.
If you could take about 2 minutes to complete this exit ticket. There's very few questions. Give us your feedback. If you are interested in earning PLUs, that we have the capacity to do that.
Should I just launch into the fireside chat part, or do you have more
Yes.
announcements?
Yes, thank you very much. If you need to go or choose to go, thank you for coming. If you want to stay, Kristin, take it away and we'll keep on going with the conversations.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Julie. I think, I just wanted to open up with this idea. Do you have more questions now? Right? We talked about it's sometimes hard to, when someone's like, what do you want to talk about? Like, what questions do you have? It's sometimes hard just to like pull out of left field and generate an idea. But I think like this is the process of sharing a little bit of something, dipping your toe in, having some conversation, doing a little bit of reflection that gets us to the point of really having some big, deep questions. So I'd love to kick it over to all of you, either in the chat or feel free to unmute. What are some questions that you have either about your role in general, about our time together today, or curiosity? And we can start with those. Kelly, I see your hand up. Yes, my friend.
Hi, everyone. I am wondering, because the breakout session, as you said, Kristen, they become so short, right? And you start to get to know each other, and then we don't have that time. And so one way is extending the time if people are willing to do so. But beyond that, how do we not start at the same point each meeting? Does that make sense? Right. So our conversations start with building relationships, right? So Jill and I were in the room together, and Dan and Jay, but like how do we go beyond that the next time so that we can, I don't know, keep going, right?
Yeah,
keep going, keep
totally.
getting deeper. So that's my wonder.
Yeah, that's a great wonder. And I think the hope of the group in designing this, and feel free to jump in, Julie and Kara, but that it is learning experiences by the group for the group. And so if your feedback is that, hey, next time we want to be in a room together, me and Jill, and we had this great idea, please create a room just for us to spend more time together, right? And so like that's part of the design, is that we're hoping to foster connections for people and the opportunity to go deeper, right? Because we know like you can popcorn and get a lot of little ideas, but that oftentimes the beauty is in the depth and the time spent revisiting a topic or going a little bit deeper. So that feedback is critical to how we all plan for what's next. Julie or Kara, anything to add to that?
I'd have one thing, and then I see Leslie has her hand raised. So
Yeah.
I did also want to let people know we have some in-person sessions. And now, obviously, not everybody is in the same geographic area, but we've already talked about, for example, if people are close to Kristen in Chicago or close to Kara in Michigan, we can, on the same day even perhaps, but we can schedule some in-person times where we don't have Zoom rooms and chats and mutes and things like that. It's a little more natural to kind of, have that springboard. So Leslie, tell us what you're thinking. Hello.
Thanks. Yes. Hi. I'm Leslie and I am a professor over at the Community College of Rhode Island. I think I'm closer to you, Julie, than anyone else here today. Although I did see somebody else from South Kingstown. I was in a great group. It was interesting because two of the members, and I see Jamie on the call still, were professional library professionals K through 12. And then I was on the call with another higher ed, a woman, I don't know if Meg's still here, who teaches an elementary education. But what all of us really noticed about our students, and we always assume that the younger generations are always more tech savvy, there were some real basic skills like composing emails and when I think about digital literacy, you think about some of these skills that you assume that people have and they still, we've even embedded it in our learning management platform, showing our college students how to create an email, how to attach a document. So that was interesting. And I think the other thing that we kind of came across, and something I'd love to pursue more because we've been talking about it, I think there needs to be a more intimate articulation between K through 12 and higher ed, and what the expectations are for high school graduates and what we think these same students are supposed to come to campus with. And that's just an area I would love to explore deeper. Thank you for the time.
I love that. That's a really powerful topic. And we can definitely explore that more. Yeah, you're getting lots of thumbs up across the screens. All right. Julie, I saw you writing that down. You got that on your list?
Yes, and I also wanted to tell the group, we intentionally did not book something for every month because that leaves some space in between if new things come up. And these are the kinds of things, for example, and if we decide as a group or even a small group decides, you know what, I really want to spend an hour talking with people between K-12 education and higher ed. Great, we can set that up. And obviously, then once we get going, people can kind of take that. And what often happens at the Summer Institute is people kind of find their flock and then they kind of just keep going with it. And so that's part of our vision, but certainly in the beginning, making those connections is really important. So, what are other people thinking?
I have a
Yeah, Leah,
question.
I see you. Yes, you're next on my list. Go ahead.
Thank you. Let me lower my hand. Okay, so I do have a specific question, but I have to piggyback on what Leslie said. So I'm an assistant professor of English, Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland. And so I teach a lot of English and literature and classes, but I also teach business communications, which I've been teaching for 5 years, going on 6. And so because of that, in the first week in English 101, I teach the kids how to write a professional email to their professors, because that's my carryover between the two classes. Because I'm like, no, you don't say sick, you don't say yo, you don't say hey in the hold on one second, I'm in a meeting. Hey, man. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Nope.
I'm so sorry. You have to turn that off. Turn it off. So
Speaking of
sorry.
professional,
Sorry, I am so sorry. Oh my God,
no
it's so
problem. Please,
embarrassing.
please.
It's like as soon as I start talking, he's like, "Hey, let me turn on the TV." No, okay. So anyway, yes, they don't know how to speak professionally, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I can't say as an 18-year-old I knew how to do that either, but of course I was 18 in like 1991. So anyway,
Yeah,
but
thank you.
I did have a specific question. For the in the form we filled out, the exit form we filled out, and going down to the bottom about the media, the graduate level media literacy course.
Mhm.
Here's my specific question. I am interested. Is it for college professors? I mean, to teach college students. The reason why I ask is because other classes I've taken were all for K through 12. And again, nothing wrong with that. I teach dual credit students as well. But I'm saying, as a college professor, everything I've used, honest to God, in the classroom has come from a K through 12 lens because I can't find anything that's for college students. So that's my
Yes.
question.
We definitely have we have every kind of person. We have people who work out in communities. We have several college faculty who then, we had somebody in the Navy who worked with college students in the Navy. So it's very open-ended, and Kara and I are happy to answer more questions if you want to email us, and we can, share a little bit more about that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Other thoughts or wonderings?
What time are we all due at the Columbia Yacht Club tonight? That was my question.
Are you gonna come over for dinner to the
Was
Columbia
that
Yacht
implied?
Club?
I thought that was implied when I saw your name. I just thought that was implied.
Yes, exactly. Craig is referring to an in-person event we had a couple of years ago, and that's why we're trying to bring back some of the in-person connection because we realize that we all learn in many different ways, and we're often craving that in-person connection. So anyone is welcome to come to Chicago whenever you're available. I am happy to host you and take you out and give you some new entry points to explore your own personal curiosity. So please feel free to come hang out a little bit more. Speaking about curiosity, I'm going to just share a couple more things with all of you here really quickly that I was thinking about, right? Like we have more questions, right? And that's the beauty of questioning, right? When you ask a few more questions, then you almost always end up with more questions than you started with, right? And so that circle and that loop of researching, creating, sharing, questioning, it keeps going. And oftentimes it's fueled by the energy that comes from the group. And so whether we're working with college students, whether we're in a professional setting with adults, we recognize that engagement doesn't happen, right? It's not like, oh, we are gifted a great group of grown-ups to work with today, and that went swimmingly, right? But we must build those connections. We must give them a why, like to be inspired. Like it's either something that you want to learn more about or something that connects to you, or let me show you how this might play out in your life. And we need to give them the power, regardless of age, to direct their own learning journey, right? That piece of autonomy, we feel it so violently when it's ripped away from us, whether it be in life, in classrooms, in work settings. We really look to create conditions where there's that desire. And as a result of desire, why, and know-how, we then get the engagement to know more about our stakeholders, to understand our community, to generate ideas collectively, and to problem solve and adapt. One of the things that sort of piggybacks off this that I wanted to share with all of you is in my new book, Text and Tech, Reading Always. But in the last 7 or 8 years, researchers from all around the world have really expanded the definition of cognition. And, historically, we've said that learning is a brain and body connection, right? It's got to be physical and it's tied in with the interactions in the environment. Well, around the same time, people started to realize that it's more than just a brain and body connection. And so collectively, these ideas were developed about cognition and now referred to as the 4 E's of cognition. But not only is it a brain and body, that embodied connection, but it's also embedded in our cultural and our environmental upbringing, right? How our community reacts to learning influences how we learn, right? How our environment is structured or supported or scaffolded for learning influences how we learn. And so I think, I was in a group and we were talking about like accessibility and inclusive ways to hear all voices in a group. So much of it is understanding the embedded context for who we're working with and helping others to understand those contexts as well. The next piece where we define cognition is through this enacted approach, right? It's that purposeful, active engagement with the world. And so as we're thinking about learning in a community, right? We have to understand the why behind the learning. Why are we going to be asked to do this? You hear teenagers ask this question all the time. Why do I have to know this type of trigonometry, right? And then we have to give those active moments to show this is why, this is how, this is where you might find purpose behind this type of learning activity, right? So we can read about studying a language, but we probably won't get fluent unless we're practicing and living and out in the world using that language, right? And then the last piece of the 4 E's of cognition framework is this extended piece. And yes, we've known this to be true. We just maybe haven't verbalized it, but cognitive processes don't just happen in the brain, but they, of course, span through tools of technology, right? And we're talking about like from pencil to paper, how many of us might be able to remember or reuse information more readily if we write it down or if we create a sketch note that cues our thinking, right? I'm thinking about my friend Craig on this call and how Craig's tool of technology is a camera and how he extends thought processes or questioning or understanding through that lens of the camera, or even in the simplest phone, how many times a month I have to look at photos on my phone to remember like when I did something, like did I pay taxes? Like let me find a picture of that envelope marked to the IRS, right? Yes, that was on April 15th. I got that, right? So as we broaden our understanding of some of these new modes of cognition or where cognition occurs, I think it just gives us an entry point into knowing a little bit more about how we work with others, knowing a little bit more how others learn and retain, knowing a little bit more how we might build relevance for the people in our groups and our communities. So that was one of the things that I was thinking about when we talked about curiosity and connection and the different ways that we organize or gather new information. The other piece that I wanted to share with you, and we have the links to these articles for anyone who's been working in inquiry or curiosity, like I know William Yang on the call and Julie and Kara have all been doing this for such a long time. But there's a great article by Kelly Howe that just really sums up some of the research behind why hooking with curiosity amplifies relevance and why it breeds connection, right? That we are wired to wonder, as that one slide I showed you, but because it's relational too, right? When we experience connection with others, and this is what we're hoping to do in this group, we build that relational, intelligence where we trust that it's safe to ask questions, where we know that like collaboration will fuel our learning and that this isn't just an academic skill that lives within the walls of a university, but that actually helps us flourish in the world. So I believe I put Let me see if I can get there really quickly. I believe I put some links, right, to those different studies for you embedded in the slides. And I know that Julie has also added them, I believe, to the website. So I'm going to take a pause there and open it up to all of you. What more are you wondering? What questions do you have? What aha moments might be on the top of your mind?
So, Kristin, one thing that we were talking about in the breakout room was the difference between curiosity and wondering, maybe which came first. And then we also kind of came to the conclusion, as you just kind of said, curiosity isn't just there, it has to be grown, cultivated, fostered. And a few of us were commenting, the only strategies we seem to have to bring back curiosity is to take away all technology, because Google's doing everything for us, and taking away, or AI is taking away our creativity. And I'm just curious from the group, what are some ways? What are those things that drive curiosity? And obviously they're person in dependent, but in your experiences, what are things that make cause people to be curious? Or are we all just finding that nobody's curious at all anymore?
I don't think nobody's curious. I think obviously I'm not about taking technology away from everything, but I am about coming from an early childhood background, but I teach adults as well, right? So I think getting into the world that we're trying to be curious about, or like as we talk about that collective curiosity, those collective questions, we can't, as educators, meet every curiosity, right? 25 little people in front of you, right? We have to build those experiences that are shared. And I think that for me, that happens in the college classroom as well, like moving out of the classroom, getting outdoors, like what are we questioning, and learning what curiosity is, and that it's okay to ask questions and not know the answers as educators. Because that's a piece I feel like oftentimes with our pre-service teachers and in-service teachers, like I have to know the answer before I can introduce this, right? And that's not the case. So I don't know. One of my thoughts is just getting out in the world of, and whatever that world is, of curiosity or content or discipline or wherever you're going with your coursework or classrooms. We have to have those shared experiences.
Yeah. Nicole, thanks, Kelly. Nicole?
Yeah, so I think what Kelly mentioned about connection matters a lot. And so when I think about curiosity, I'm thinking about it from a language perspective because I'm in TESOL and bilingual education. And I think there are a couple of concepts that I think are really helpful in fostering curiosity in students. One is this idea of language architecture. So this is from Nelson Flores. And this is this belief that multilingual people, they come in with all of their languages, the different repertoires, the different embodied practices, and they're constantly creating new ways to communicate. They're actively building their own personal language architecture that we have the opportunity to learn about as teachers and as learners in that classroom space. So through building that connection, through learning about people's language experiences, life experiences, cultural experiences, you're bridging that you're drawing in that curiosity of wanting to learn more. And with that piece, I think, especially for language teachers and all teachers, because all teachers are language teachers, is the importance of pedagogical humility, that you go in humble, knowing that you don't know everything and that you have the privilege to learn with and from your students in that space, that learning space together. Because a curious space is a safe space. It's a space where anyone can ask a question, because everyone's knowledge is valued. But but that takes a lot of time, like to build up that community of what that looks like, to want to learn about like children's, like their language architecture, and to go in humbly to learn about them and their cultures and their life experiences. Lots of different ways to do this. Language portraits are really powerful ways for children to draw their own language portraits of how they see, like they map on their different languages and varieties of languages onto their like little bodies, and kind of like what they see at the different colors they're selecting, the different ways they're talking about that connection. Things like language life histories, where they can kind of draw out like their timeline of like learning their languages, who they're using them with, in what context, for what purposes. And that bridges that possibility to ask questions and to want to learn more. And it really, I think a lot about that embodied space, that multimodal space of thinking about how can you represent language and learning, not just from a word or linguistic perspective, but from that multimodal embodied perspective. And that draws out the desire to want to ask questions and be curious.
Thanks. I love the idea. Thinking about language, we often think about experiences and backgrounds and things, but the role that language plays in people's experiences and backgrounds. Thanks. Jamie, it looks like Jamie might have dropped off. She had her hand raised, but
I'm here, Julie.
oh,
I'm
there she
still
is.
here.
Your box moved around. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, no, it's okay. I did take it off because I was still making connections and to the concept of wonder. And I appreciate the updating of wonder to wired to wonder. So I have to change my board for that in my school library, updated. But then you asked, you posed curiosity versus wonder, that they're not the same.
Yeah.
And naturally, I think, or at first glance, they are the same thing, but really they're not, because you said curiosity is grown, cultivated, fostered. So then does that mean wonder is about inquiry, imagination, and independence of the learner? So then does that connect to personal digital inquiry, as you know, Julie, and media literacy, representing wonder, and media literacy education representing curiosity, because it offers a pathway to a navigation tools to explore what has been wondered. So so that's how I'm wondering, do those connections make sense? Or is it like far reaching, or do you see it too?
I love that idea. I think I've always struggled when we talk about wondering and inquiry, and then, on the one hand, if you will, and then we think about digital literacy and the skills and the competencies, and I keep trying to figure out how they're different, but they're joined. And I love, Jamie, what you said about, media literacy or whatever kind of literacy as a navigational tool to get you to that place or to enact that. Yeah. What do other people think about the way Jamie's thinking of that?
I don't know. I have something in here. It's not solidifying it.
Angie?
Here somewhere.
Oh, Jamie got me thinking about like spirituality. I think wonder is like spiritual, and curiosity is maybe more critical. And for me, those two things definitely exist in the same place. Like I'm critical of my spirituality, and I go to spiritual places and I criticize them. But there's something like awe when I think of wonder, and to me seems like it's not controlled by me. It's something else. But curiosity is fostered and it's in my power.
Yeah.
Can I jump in on something that Angie just said? I just posted a book, and apologize that it's on Amazon. You can get it other places. It's a book by Dasher Keltner. It's called Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. It's a book that I've read twice. It's really a gorgeous, beautifully written book. And it's about the psychological state of awe. And when I hear the word wonder, I feel like awe, and we sort of use a lot of these words interchangeably. Like awe is the greatest expression, I think, of wonder. And I'm not sure if awe is where curiosity leads to. I'm just not sure how it all works.
Mm.
And I know we're running out of time, but I think the thing that in my head is this curiosity is something that we can develop a strong sense of curiosity for anything. And the wondering is how it's like a skill that comes from that, right? So this being a curious person becomes a characteristic of the way we are, and that leads us to wonder about things in our world.
And I think that's how awe then connects to the sense of wonder, just like that image that Kristin shared of finding out what happened with the curiosity. The end, the outcome was his facial expressions, but then having the spark in the first place and having someone giving them that banana, those wires, that laptop to create an experience based off of the fifth grader's curiosity or standards or whatever that filtered down to this kindergartner or first grader experiencing what they created. So that all was at the beginning and at the end. But that whole connection that you're talking about, Kelly, is like, it's definitely, I think, embedded and integrated through it all because it's a part of the human experience. All of that, all the senses. So, yeah. Ooh, you all are so good. We're so good. Great thinking.
See what we can do together. And Kristin put a link up there that I think, Kristin, that's one of the ones you shared with me. And so, yeah, we're running out of time. But in probably a week or so, when we have the recording and everything, we'll put this back out to everyone who attended with a link to the website where you can see it. And maybe I'll even add a space. I don't know if it's a slide or a document, even to start to, Jamie, you're making us think about, how to make sense of awe and curiosity and wonder and where it all fits together, and then what it might look like in different spaces. So I'm excited. Hopefully, other people have gotten a little energized in the middle of a maybe hot day, depending on where you are in the country. I've heard there's going to be more hotness this week. Um, so any last comments from anyone before we kind of wrap up? All right.
Just
Well, thank
grateful
you.
to be here. Thank you so much.
Can I have a 5-second poll? Thumbs up if you think we might be able to offer this for an hour and a half, if that's a reasonable amount of time. Should we try for an hour and a half? We're
Yes.
gonna try that next time, and then if people need to leave early, fine. But I think once you're there, I think people get excited. So, okay.
I also was just adding to that, Julie, the fireside chat, even if we do an hour and a half with 15 minutes, like that helped us bring some of this into a deeper space.
Yep.
Right. So,
Great. Thank you, Kristin. Thank you, Kara. Thank you to all of you for sticking around. Stay safe. Enjoy the summer if it is summer for you. And we'll see you all soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.